Good morning, listeners and viewers. Jalf,
Good morning, Ammar.
how are we doing?
Yes, very well.
It's, you're listening to Ammar and
Jalf.
live on our weekly radio show right here on Spice FM.
And each week we'll try and bring you some views, news, and one or two clues from the business world.
Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities.
And we'll be talking shop quite literally and not just corner shops. So they start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can't help. We can't help. And we do help. Gosh, it was an absolute pleasure and delight to see you last week, Brother Jalf. Eid Mubarak.
It was this week, actually, only a few days ago, the start of the week.
All right. Well, it depends. Because actually the Muslim week starts on a Friday. So
Does it really? Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it? Well, hey. But it was
Yeah.
an Eid Mubarak to all of our listeners, and it was nice that it was done all over the country, I think literally on the same day. And it was also nice that during the last couple of years where you were having kind of Eid in the house amongst those that are living in the house, it's just nice to kind of get back to some kind of a reality, which is all about, it's all about family and food, and just celebrating the joyous occasion. So I think it was very nice to have you and your family over and seeing all the other people that we haven't seen for such a long time.
Well, it was beautiful. It was beautiful, and the food was fantastic, as you'd expect it to be. But the company made it even taste nicer. So that was good. Did you take the full day off, or did you?
No. I was at home till about 7ish. So had most of the day at home. So yes.
Yeah, good. And then this week, Jalf, what's happening?
Well, it's just getting back into the grind again. So I was actually away in London for a couple of days, just got back last night. And London is big, well, it just feels like normal, very, very normal, very, very busy, very crazy. I think that the foreigners are coming back into the country, and tourism is probably not getting back to what it was, but it's certainly on the up for sure. So yeah, I think when the capital is doing well, it just tells you something about the rest of the country as well.
It does. It does. I think it's very interesting times from a economic point of view.
Yeah.
The interest rate was increased again yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's now 1%, and you can start to feel it a little bit more.
Well, yes, but then I think everyone should be aware that this is just the beginning. I think if the interest rate went up to 4%, 5%, 6%, is it a bigger shock than the pandemic? I don't think it is.
You don't think it is?
Well, what interest rates going up to 6, 7, 8% as opposed to locking down the entire country? No, absolutely not. My point is that in the bigger scheme of things, the things that we've had to deal with and the ordeals that we've come to accept, which were a part of our lives only 2 years ago. I think if there's economically, I think it's become so challenging for so many people, and I just feel that those challenges are going to be compounded in the next few weeks and months. And with we've already said before, if you go back to our shows, going back 6 months, a year, and we've said that the interest rates they're gonna go up. Inflation is gonna be on the up, but they're not. At the moment, they're going up very subtly. But if there was a if they were to go up overnight because of some kind of an economic crash because of A, B, C, and D, I mean, hey, it's something that, like what I'm trying to say is, it's not going to be the biggest shock ever. It's
No,
something
it's
that,
not. And you're right. It is very much a case of, it's happening, but it's, the cost of living crisis, as
Yeah.
it's been described,
yeah,
is a crisis.
it is. I think, Ammar, the biggest thing about the economy, I think that's going to have the most fundamental effect on banks and interest and the world economy. It's going to be the outcome of the dollar. And I'm not an economist, but if you just think very, very simply, if you think about the dollar, the petrodollar, the trading in dollars around the world, and if you think about it, how that's could change, because if it's already changing in Russia, because they're now trading with a ruble, and they're asking their European partners to buy energy in rubles as opposed to the dollar. And I think that the ruble has now become, they had all these sanctions, but it's on a 2-year high. Now, there's talks that Saudi might do the same. If the OPEC countries say that they want to trade in their individual currencies, I think the dollar will take an absolute beating. And then
That's the only thing that has propped up the American economy.
Yeah.
Has been that the vast majority of trade globally has been done through the dollar.
Yeah. So, but that's beginning to change. Now, will the Americans really allow that to happen without wanting to cause some serious damage to the worldwide economy? I think they're not going to take it graciously, are they? That's my view. If they don't take it graciously, it means that there's going to be serious economic kind of, it's just going to be a whirlwind economically. I mean, it's going to be turmoil, I feel, and interest rates and anything that so many other things can be severely affected. So I think we need to just gear ourselves up for things becoming a lot worse than where they are, and something dramatic happening as opposed to a 0.25% increase in interest rates. I think, if we're sensible, I would say get ready for a 2, 3, 4% hike in interest rates within a short space of time, because, like, for me, it wouldn't be a big surprise.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's not going to be a surprise. I'm just saying it's going to hurt.
Yeah,
And
of course.
the 1%, the accelerated, because it's only been in the last couple of months. All of a sudden, every couple of weeks, it's gone up quarter of a percent, quarter of a percent, and they're suggesting that it will go up quite significantly. In the coming months, and certainly before the end of the year. Which interestingly, just thinking and talking about oil, Shell profits nearly triple. Shell. So what's your view around this sort of windfall tax that's been suggested on the sort of energy companies, in particular the oil and such like?
What, windfall tax, and what would happen about it?
As in taxing businesses more because they're doing okay?
Why should they get taxed more if they're doing okay? That's good for them. I think if they're profiteering.
What is that? Well, is that not the benefit of? Is that not the whole purpose of a business?
Do you know what, Ammar? It was interesting. I was at had a meeting with my accountants last week, and he was telling me a story which was quite funny. The vegetable which is called a Karela. It's like a very bitter vegetable. It looks like a spiky mini cucumber.
It's a green sort of.
Yeah. That's exactly. So So someone went to, there was a report that somebody went in to buy a Kerala from Brighton food stores, right? And they were so outraged at the price that they went and told the city council, oh, look, these guys are profiteering from a Kerala. So the city council rocked up to see the owners of the store, and who then pulled out, they said, oh, you guys are profiteering, you're charging £20 a kilo for a Kerala. That's just outrageous. And then they pulled out the invoices to show them, so that, look, we've purchased the Kerala for £17 per kilo, and we put an uplift of not even 20% to sell it at £20 because the costs are so ridiculous. So people, I was quite shocked to see how people actually even understood to go and tell the council that someone was trying to profiteer on a vegetable. And it wasn't profiteering because they made they charged a very, very fair price. Now, yeah, I mean, there is a logic that if there is a market demand there and you're able to make as much money as you can, that's understandable in some ways, Ammar. But if you hold the people with a gun to their heads though, and say that, oh yeah, well, we know that you can't survive without this particular product, and we're just going to make as much money as possible, I think that's where you cross the line. So I guess it would need a body to kind of make sure that that balance is correct. I think if you talk about fuel just in itself, the amount of taxes, when OPEC are put under pressure by governments of the world to lower the prices that they charge, I remember OPEC making a statement saying that, well, hold on, we're only charging you this and this. You need to go and speak to your governments. Why are they putting an £1 uplift on taxes on a litre of petrol? It'd be interesting to see how much tax the government themselves are putting on to the £2 a litre of diesel that we pay ourselves.
Yeah, so I believe it to be around about 50-60 pence.
I mean, why is that? If you're getting ordinary VAT on it, why are you charging us an extra 50-60 pence in taxes?
I think that's profiteering.
It's profiteering from the government's perspective. They're profiteering from everything. If anyone's profiteering on from us, it's the government.
Yeah, and the other thing, anyway, yeah, without us getting into the data or the details, I don't know. The point around this is very much, there's so many inefficiencies across public services.
Yeah.
Right. And all that's happening is like, let's just raise more money from people rather than dealing with the inefficiencies that exist. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting that the level of inefficiencies have continued, and I'm slightly embarrassed to say I've now been in sort of certain positions where I've seen the same thing happen over a cycle. So a couple of decades now, I've been supporting and representing the private sector, right? And it's like, and it's like there's some great positive stuff happening, and there's some great positive stuff happened. However, all that happens is things go around in a cycle, and it just goes to show how old I'm getting when I'm sat there going, "Oh my God, can you believe, right, that that we're going back to do the same thing that was happening in 2003 and 2002?"
Yeah. Yep. I think.
So I think really, yeah, there is a huge opportunity around, to try and make things more efficient, more effective. There was an element of that happening over COVID, because there was a necessity and need for people to react and respond to immediate challenges, and people came together and worked together, and that collaboration happened, and There was more and better efficiencies. We used the armed forces. We deployed them nationally as a resource. And that's an interesting thing, right? Because if we've got, and I was just reflecting on this, if we've got the army, right? So we've got all of these armed forces that exist.
Mhm.
They're all highly skilled, they're all highly qualified, and they're all trained primarily to go to war.
Mhm.
But and we've deployed them in sort of extreme circumstances. So whether there's been floods, or when there's been COVID, or when there's been power failures, or whatever, we bring in the army to support us. But is there not like an opportunity to use them sort of more broadly as well? As in, is there not like, is that resource not there to sort of
broadly in what way though? You don't want the army on the streets to make doctors.
I think so. Power to the army. I think we need it.
I mean, you can't get a doctor's appointment, right? You have to wait. You can't. I mean, I don't understand all of that stuff, Ammar. I mean, I'm just confused. I'm so confused about how we can give X amount of billions on schemes such as furlough, but you can't now get a doctor's appointment. You have to wait a month or 2 months.
And
I mean,
I can't get into to see a dental hygienist till August. What's all that about?
maybe you need. Well, if you had family that was in dentistry, maybe you might have been able to.
You'd expect that to be.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on?
I need to have a word, really, don't I?
Yeah,
I need to have a word.
You need to sort that out. I mean, that's not acceptable.
Anyway, it was the local elections, Jalf. Newcastle remains Labour. There's some minor changes. It was interesting because Doc had stood again, and the amount of work and effort that Doc's put in Gosford, was huge, and his numbers have grown, and things like that. But obviously he didn't succeed. And let's say there's always next year is what there is. Business topic of the week, Jalf. Creating product awareness.
Okay.
So let's just rattle through this topic. So whilst all startups need, let me just move this script here. So whilst all startups need product awareness, the way this is done depends on how you are launching your business and what type of business it is. With any product or service launch, it is important to get the right message to prospective customers. You should convey to your target market that you have a proposition that meets some need or want that is currently unmet, or is better than the ones currently owned. The more interesting the product or service, the more likely you are to gain genuine public interest. Existing companies can use PR, so public relations, as when introducing a new product to a new market. Big enough deals will attract news on their own, meaning that PR has a natural advantage. However, relying just on PR is not recommended. The public deciding how much the product awareness is spread out and in what spotlight can be intimidating, as the public can be unpredictable and inaccurate. For example, Apple makes sure they control what the media is told when a new product is about to be released, and then host their own reveal event. Of course, using Apple as an example is an extreme given their huge name. Some businesses get lucky and have a celebrity launch their product, or similarly, the product blows up on social media, attracting millions of views. You can endorse and persuade a celeb or influencer to promote your product, but remember, any PR issues will affect both parties involved, and the price will always be high. If cost is an issue, check out some newspapers. Many run regular business pages, and journalists look for inspirational stories to fill in their pages. Following this, creating a name for your product through social media is very cost effective and has an incredible power of spreading awareness if items go viral, etc. Your business should have social media set up as a basis anyway, so this shouldn't be too hard to configure in your schedule. The steadiest, risk-free way to spread awareness is to tell your target market segment about your product or service, note the benefits for them as customers, why to purchase it and where they can buy it, and create sufficient curiosity with honesty. That's the best recipe for success. And to find out more about creating product awareness and how you can be supported, you can contact the SME Centre of Excellence, I believe, who's brought this business topic of the week. Jeff, you done a lot of this, didn't you?
I mean, it was interesting how you launch a product. I mean, the story of Kai Kai is probably a very interesting one. And
I think it's a great story.
Number one, what happened was there was a lot of intrigue. There's always a lot of intrigue during a change to a building. So I think critically, you have to begin by being very, very friendly with your neighbors, especially in the location of Kai Kai, where you have residents, and there's a residential estate. Well, would you call it estate? It's a lovely residential group of houses right next to the restaurant, along with people above and to the left and to the right. It's kind of quite a big hub. So when you have lots of building works going on and there's vans blocking up the street and A, B, C, and D, the intrigue begins then. So the critically at that stage, if you have good relations with the neighbours, you send letters to them and say, look, if there's any noise or disturbances, please come and contact us straight away, because we are doing works. It's for the greater good. There may be some disruption, but you know, we're always on hand to make sure that it's all manageable and it's not disturbing you too much. And it begins from that, and then the building works is done, and we put lots of like amazing exotic plants outside, and there was lots of people coming and intrigued. And the social media, with everything that you said about it, it was amazing. I think just to add to it, PR, and advertising costs money. PR is usually free. Word of mouth, it's the best, still the most best, potent, cheapest medium of all.
Well, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
One person telling the other person, telling the other person, telling the other person. And the thing is, these days, ourselves, without getting any trendsetters and social media influencers on board, it was just, you know, them coming in themselves and realizing, oh, this is something unique going on here. And we, you know, we're on something like 10.4 thousand, 10,000, over 10,000 followers just organically. And there's not a penny that's needed to have been spent on any type of paid advertising. And I think if you imagine that some people, the amount of money they spend on advertising, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 within 2 years or whatever it may be. Now, if you can save that and invest that in the product, make the product better by not spending money on advertising, make the product better on the money that you save, then I think people have a great experience, and there's more for people to talk about. So that's a slightly different way of launching or building awareness of your product. But it's not always, you don't have that luxury of being able to do that. So you do have to resort to the other mediums, such as advertising, which can be very powerful. PR is brilliant. The value you get on PR is probably more than you would in advertising if you can get into the right places and into the right mediums, local newspapers, TVs, and A, B, C, and D.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that the key thing now is very much around honesty. You know, people know whether you're authentic or being honest or not.
I think people are well versed in all aspects of and whether it be food or whether it be shopping or whether it be clothes, whether it be, there's insurance, the price compare sites probably create that kind of a mindset, has it, Ammar? I would have thought, because people are quite savvy in terms of comparables.
Well, as in, people can just look around, can't they?
Yeah. They got access to information very easily, and they can, look around. They can compare and contrast.
It's yeah, very much so, and that's clearly one of the key things around product engagement as well. I suppose the most important point for me around product awareness, Jalf, is clearly establishing what pain are you relieving and what gain are you creating. And it's interesting, right? So I delivered a workshop last week on scaling companies. So these are companies who have sort of grown exponentially. They're turning over a few £1 million and such like. And I sort of go, let's go back to basics about your business model. Let's have a look at your customer segments and things like that. And they go, and I go, oh, do you know what this is and what this looks like? And they go, oh, yeah, we're really comfortable with all of that. I then go through the methodology and they're like, oh my God, didn't realize that's how you do it. And it's funny, right, that people adopt our methodology because somebody shows them it. And they think that they're using it as effectively, and it's beneficial. Of course they're using it, but they don't necessarily realize how best to use it and what you get from it. So identifying a job to be done, right, and identifying what pain or gain somebody is either looking for or experiencing when they're doing that job allows you to then start targeting how your product or service or whatever it is can alleviate that pain and sort of provide some gain. And as a business, as we've talked about this, but it's such an important point. And I always encourage people to look through the lens of their customers. So it's dead easy to sell, get focused purely on product or service. So we just want to market our product, right? Rather than it alleviating pain or, so if someone's doing a job, so what's the job they're trying to do? Well, and it's not purely work related. If I give you a very quick, crude example, going to the movies might sound and seem as if it's the same thing, right? For the same person. So if a person is going to the movies, they might sit and think and go, I'm going to the movies, going to watch a movie, right? But the job that they're doing is distinctly different if they're going to the movies with the kids, right? If they're going to the movies with their partner on a date night, right? Or if they're going to the movies for themselves, just to learn or watch something. And to illustrate that point, right? I'm going to the movies with the kids. So I'm taking our kids to the movies. It needs to be at a suitable time. It needs to be a fun movie that entertains the kids. I need to be able to get in and out. I can drive there. I don't need to worry about anything, but it needs to be at an appropriate time. It shouldn't be too long, otherwise it's not going to entertain them, right? So that's the pain that I'm thinking about, that I'm experiencing, and the gain that I'm looking for is the kids have a good time. They come out, we eat loads of rubbish. It's a good experience. They've been entertained, and it's a movie that I'm happy to watch. And the likes of Disney and all of these Pixar have done a great job at creating movies that entertain both kids and adults, right? That's a secret formula. So the pain that I'm hoping I don't experience is the kids are settled and they don't like jump up and down and they're not like entertained. that the movie's on at a rubbish time, which interferes with their meal or whatever it is. There's a whole range of pains. And the game that I'm looking for is very much that kids are entertained, I'm entertained, had some nachos, kids are being fed, it's been an enjoyable experience. They come out buzzing. So that's the experience there. If I'm going to the movies on a date night, right? Well, once again, I need to think about, I might not want to drive, might want to get a taxi, I might want to get the public transport or whatever it is. And the movie needs to be, sort of slightly more orientated. I want a romantic evening. I want us to both feel good. I want us to enjoy the experience so we can talk about it. Other people might want to have a drink and things like that, and they might want to go for a meal afterwards. So it's like factoring these things in, booking a suitable time. The kids are in bed. I've arranged a babysitter. So the job that I'm trying to do there is different to the job that I'm trying to do with the kids. And then if I'm trying to go to the movies for myself, right, just to watch something because it's a really educational, well, once again, I want it to be a time that suits me. I want it to be educational. I want it to be, I don't want to be disturbed by, kids sort of because they're noisy and potentially get involved in the movie. And I don't want people sat next to us snogging on because it's a romantic movie. I'm there for an educational purpose. I just want to concentrate on the movie. So my point around that is whilst I am the same person, the experience that I'm looking for is different, right? So the cinema needs to cater to each of those customer segments because they're doing a different job. And they need to be able to illustrate that. So from a convenience point of view, here's a website, you can book online, it's easy, you can check the times, you can reserve your seat. Well, that's something that hits all of those. But, is there enough suites? Is the kids' movie on in the morning so they can get in on a weekend? Is there enough evening ones? Is there drinks available? Are we going to have snack? As in there's all of these key considerations for each of their customer segments. So thinking about that when you start looking at your product or service is absolutely key. Just simply assuming that, if you take a traditional takeaway, all they do is simply go and, we offer the food, doesn't matter who turns in, they come and get the food, but their customers are distinctly different. And they'll be coming there for a different reason. Now, if they can connect better with those customers and provide them with the experience they're looking for, well, then the likelihood is that word of mouth, which is the most powerful form of marketing, is amplified, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's a very, very good point, Simon. It makes a lot of sense. And again, the word of mouth, those that can, more you can rely on the word of mouth, the better it is all around. The big cost savings to be had, but you just got to be very, very careful about your product offering and make sure that is something for people to talk about.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. So this week, Jeff, I did invite you to the Sarah Davies event. You didn't come.
I was in London, wasn't I? So I didn't make my, how did it go?
It was really good. Really good. Yeah. I mean, everyone was raving about it. There's been so many and so much. There's been so many and so much feedback, like noise about it. It's great.
Good, excellent.
Yeah, that's the thing. So it was promoting. I mean, there was 300 people there. I took a selfie with 300 people. I think that's really the highest number I've got. So funnily enough, Sarah Davies sort of said to me, "Oh, I'll take it," because everyone's like rubbish at taking selfies. And then afterwards, when I took one, I said, I took another one after a little bit, and she's going, "Oh, you're really good at taking selfies, aren't you?" I says, "Well, yeah." She's going, "Normally, when people ask to take selfies, it's like they just take it like that, and it's like so close and whatever else and things like that." Anyway, great event, great buzz. The rooms were filled with lots of different people. She's got a fantastic story. She's published all of these books. And it was really, really interesting to hear her story on stage. And then we talked to several different people as well from a startup point of view. So these were significant startups, is what they are and were.
Good. And Ammar, what was your talking more about local stuff since we're on the local topic? What was your experience of the match against Liverpool? How did you find it?
That was last week, wasn't it? I totally forgot. It was like, and then it seems like 2 months ago, because I was trying to work out what did I do over the bank holiday weekend, and I couldn't remember. I mean, it was amazing. We had Yusuf. I must admit, my son had the time of his life. He's so into it. I must admit, I start like looking around and whatever else, and trying to focus on the matches is probably really hard for me because I'm just constantly thinking and whatever else. But he was just like that all the way through it, and he loved it. He loved every aspect of it. And then his friend was there, so we met up with them, and then his friend, him and his friend and his friend's dad wanted something to eat, so I went and watched them eat at Above, and all of the footballers were having their after party there.
Oh, were they?
So a couple of the footballers had turned up by the time we were leaving, because I got Louise to come pick us up, and it was good. It was so they were there. They had a great experience. Him and his friend were DJing at Above, so that was cool, with the superstar DJ. And then we were out of there. But fantastic atmosphere. It was such a shame because I would have expected, it would have been nice for them to have won. A draw would have been perfect.
A draw would have been brilliant, but hey, look, hopefully better times ahead. And we've been doing very, very well the second half of the season. And I think hopefully, we've got an amazing transfer window to look forward to. I think officially we haven't secured the another season in the Premier League yet, statistically. But I think that's almost certain that that's going to happen because we're at 43 points and we're almost statistically we'll probably be secure by the end of this week. I think if the results go our way. But yeah, I think it's going to be. It's brilliant times for the city, and hopefully a great future ahead. I think the new owners are doing everything just perfectly. They're just doing everything right. So hopefully they're going to bring in some great signings.
Yeah, they're doing. I mean, there is a real buzz associated with everything to do with the club, isn't there?
Yeah. Absolutely, and rightfully so. I mean, look, we've got the fan base. We've always had the fan base. We just needed the owners, and now we've got the right owners. We've got the fan base. I think, I think I was speaking to a couple of the footballers, and they just feel that being at home, it gives them so much strength and confidence, and that's why St James's Park has become a bit of a cauldron. Because people aren't coming here and turning us over that easily. We won 7 in a row, and Liverpool, the world's best team right now, they just beat us 1-0. So hopefully that just strengthens in the future, where people are very intimidated to come to St James's Park, because I think the fans will also learn how to become more hostile towards the away teams. I think that's another journey that we need to go on. It's just that we haven't, like I was saying, Ammar, there hasn't been a need to even shout from the top of our voices up until recently. You come home and you become exhausted. So I think for us to kind of whistle the away teams constantly as soon as they're on the ball, that's going to take a little bit more time. And when matches become more significant, then there's more reason for us to behave in that way, if that makes sense. If it's like a 0-0, there's no significance in the game. It doesn't mean that we're going to win the league or A, B, C, and D. I think then it becomes more important. So fans, we've got a huge part to play in the future of the club, and obviously the owners are going to do their bit also. So I think that's why we've hopefully got like really, really enjoyable times ahead. Great time to be a Newcastle fan at the moment.
I think it's a wonderful place and space, isn't it?
And obviously Newcastle as a city, I think that the impact that's going to have on the wider city, I think that's going to be phenomenal. I think, we always said it's going to take a little bit of time, but what they've done in 6 months, imagine by the start of next season, Ammar, the hype that there'll be with 7-8 new players and their entourage of their people, and the media that would be involved. And if we get deeper into the tournaments, the FA Cups and ABC, and if we start challenging for Europe or getting into the top 6, the hype that there's going to be around Newcastle, not just nationally but internationally. So, for example, those the Saudis, the Arabs that do come into London and stuff, they plan the holidays coming to London. Imagine that if Newcastle United is their football club, and it is, surely, yeah, they'll come to London, but they will visit Newcastle and spend a couple of days here, go to a couple of matches and stuff. And that type of influx of those people with that type of disposable income can only be great for the city and the businesses of the city.
Well, I think so. I think it'll be, like, as you say, an incredible, anyway, the point is the whole impact of and on the club, you can see it, and it's quite envious from everyone else, isn't it?
Well, hey, I think we were always the country's second favourite team in the Kevin Keegan era. I think that may have changed a little because, like you said, the envy is a bit too big for them to support us. But I think we as a city would deserve all of this. We really do.
I believe so. I think it's wonderful. And are you? When's the next match?
The next home game is against Arsenal. The next match is this Sunday against Man City away. And then,
are we going to win that?
Well, Man City have just been knocked out of the Champions League in a dramatic semi-final. I think that the wounded animals are fighting for the league. I think they'll pip us, they'll beat us. We've got Arsenal and then Burnley after that. So we'll see where we are with those 2 games. But I think either way, whatever happens now, it doesn't matter anymore because we've had a phenomenal season. So, the last final game is on the Monday night, Ammar, against Arsenal. Not this Monday coming, the Monday after. And that's it, the season. Then there's only 1 game after that. So yeah, it's a Monday night match, and then that's it.
Yeah, I think it'll be an incredible game. I've been invited along again to that, so it's 8 p.m, isn't it? Because I was going to take my son, but he was. It's a bit late. It's a midweek game, and it's not amazing. We've got the Curry Club on the 19th of May, be hosted by Being Woman, a charity in Ashington. So looking forward to that. Would encourage everybody to sort of consider and get involved in coming along and supporting and understanding what's going on. Fantastic charity. Faria has been an awesome woman. She's been an award winner, and you can sign up now on the ABC website. Jeff, we haven't talked about the war in Ukraine. it's still happening. It's still there.
Yeah, it's not a good situation. It's going to hugely affect. It's amazing, isn't it? Ukraine is actually quite. I remember from football terms when the European matches used to be in Ukraine. It was so far more. It's kind of on the edge of the periphery of Europe. In fact, Libya is probably closer to Ukraine if you look at it in terms of where they are on the map, right? But Libya, because it's classed as Africa and Ukraine is classed as Europe, we feel as though that, you know, there's a war on our shores, but obviously the EU and A, B, C, and D. But the consequences of, I was reading somewhere yesterday that India is considering not exporting any wheat because they've had a bad harvest, right? Russia is saying that they will only give wheat, or they may stop giving wheat and fertilizers to what they're deeming as unfriendly nations, right? So again, if you imagine the cost of bread going up, you know, by 200%, 300%, I mean, it's just going to be just incredible, the impact that we're going to face. But I think the war, my outlook is that I don't think that they're looking for a ceasefire, either party. I think Ukraine is definitely, obviously, they're in a weaker position because Russia is a global superpower. Ordinarily, UK would probably have caved in and said that, okay, let's have a ceasefire. What are your terms, Russia? But because it's being propped up by the Americans and other big European countries, Ukraine is still hanging in there. There's no sign of any kind of ceasefires, and the Russians are just bombarding strategic cities in Ukraine. Lots and lots of soldiers from both sides are being killed. Lots of civilians are being dispersed, and you know, it's chaos for the whole country, especially Europe. The Americans, unfortunately, they keep on, and the Americans, Germany, and Britain, you know, and other European countries, Poland and others, they're all kind of giving weapons to Ukraine, which are the NATO-led countries. And is that not just a proxy NATO war against Russia?
You know, it's interesting, isn't it, how if you track the war over the last few months, you know, there was real hesitancy, real caution on not sort of aggravating the situation, and it seems to have gone the other way now, doesn't it?
I think there was a scary outcome that was shown on Russian TV, which Piers Morgan showed a clip of on his show, I think over a couple of days ago. And one of the Russian generals came in and said, well, Britain, you guys are kind of being very, very aggressive towards Russia. Let me just show you what we can do to your country. We can get this underwater drone, which can hold this missile of this size, and it could be nuclear armed, and we would come to it would be underwater. It would go off not on your land, but it will go off in the sea, and it will create a 50-meter tsunami with radioactive A, B, C, and D within the waters, and it'll just flatten your country with one bomb. So just be careful what you say to Russia, and that was, you know, they showed that on their TV, and I just think that, you know, Ammar, if we go back a few years when we said, just please don't poke that big bear. There's just no need. I mean, you should get the powers that be, the big diplomats. They should sit around the table and show your diplomacy by sitting with those that you deem to be your enemies. Remember that time when we said that we wanted to sit around the table with a guy who was representing that organization which were racist, or A, B, C, and D. I can't remember what his name was. Remember we said, well, let's sit down with him. I would love to sit down with him and see why he's got a racist outlook towards
Tommy.
What was the name of that guy, Ammar? It was
Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy
Gunn.
Tommy something. But you know, we now the diplomats, that's what your job is, to go and find solutions and be a diplomat. But why aren't we sitting around with the Russians and trying to not sitting with them and saying that, okay, look, let's not let it get there. We don't want to be in a nuclear war with anybody. Let's not even talk about those things. Let's try and, like, what are your grievances? Let's try and talk and let's try and resolve this. But they don't seem to be wanting to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's gone the other way now, where there's almost an intent of
escalating a big war, Ammar, with NATO and Russia. I mean, okay, so what's going to be the outcome then? The worst case scenario of that is a nuclear war. I mean, and who does that benefit? It doesn't benefit the world as a whole, does it? I mean, what guarantees is there on any country winning a nuclear war? Because everyone's nuclear armed.
Honest answer, don't think there is any benefit whatsoever in us doing anything that would antagonize people. I think it's a very challenging time and place.
Well, it is. But the only thing that I can say, Ammar, that no matter what leaders do, there is going to be a nuclear war, though. It's already written. If you want to look at Christian eschatology, Islamic eschatology, Armageddon is what's mentioned in the Bible. Armageddon doesn't mean the end of the world. It means a huge war where anything in the sky is dropped. And in the Quran, it's referred to as a Malhama, which is effectively the same thing. It does also say that there is life after this stage in the cycle of history. But what life it is and which countries survive it is obviously not clear. But the world isn't finished, but the world is severely battered and bruised, and countries will disappear, and A, B, C, and D after that big war. So no matter what anyone does, you're not going to stop it. It seems as though, I mean, if we are living through this now, we are living through history. And I would, as an individual, rather live through history than not live through history and experience it. But, and we would all be in the same boat, because unfortunately, we're not able to change any of these decisions. But the powers that be should do everything possible to avoid this scenario and prolong that as long as possible. But it's sad to see how the diplomats are dealing with things. I don't think they're doing it in the best interests of the goodness of the world.
Yeah, and it's just, as you say, it's a real challenge right now, isn't it? It's so painful. And it's that level of uncertainty, Jalf, that is quite significant. So the costs of everything's going to continue, right? So, and I appreciate that this is a really positive show, and we just share really positive messages and try not to talk about.
We have to be realists as well.
No, we do. So, what type of top tips would you be offering to people?
I think just be prudent with your finances. Plan ahead. Plan for the worst case scenario, because there's nothing to lose. So don't go out and buy £100,000 car if you don't have to. Save that money and think about how to secure your family from all areas, really. From begin with the basics, putting food on the table. Begin with the next one is, if you've got extra money, maybe it's a good idea to pay off your mortgage if you can, in case the interest rates go up. So it's just thinking very, very sensibly, Ammar. Don't expose yourself so that you can, if you're the breadwinner, don't expose yourself too thin at this moment in time. Hopefully there's better days ahead. So at this moment in time, just the what do they say about your purse strings? Tighten your purse strings.
Tighten them.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good bit of advice. Certainly, I must admit that I've started to really consider what we're buying or what we're not. In fact, we're going to sell a car and things like that, just to sort of downgrade and sort of.
Yeah, it's not even downgrading. I think there might have been moments where we were just we had excess luxuries that weren't necessary. So
That's a good point. I think
and
you're
now
right.
it's a matter of thinking, okay, let's take away. So even brother bin Salman is selling some of his yachts. So if, he must have realized, I don't need £1 billion yacht. Actually, let me sell it. So I think that just lose some of the luxuries for now, and hopefully.
Well, unnecessary, isn't it? The point that we're making is it's those unnecessary. So do we need 2 big cars? Answer is no. And actually, it makes a lot more sense for us to, and from a sustainability and a green point of view, we'll sell the big car and get an electric car, because we do limited miles during the week round the doors. And I'll get a bus pass.
Well, you can like share as well, like the Uber share stuff.
Yeah, I'll just come and share yours. You come and pick
Get a
me
bike.
up.
Yeah, get a bike.
I mean, can you ride a bike, Jeff?
Yeah, I can. Have you got a bike?
No, I'm thinking of getting one.
Get one, then let's get a couple of bikes on, and we can go on a bike.
Yeah, no, that'd be nice. Because I'm not a great cyclist.
No, that'll be good.
Yeah. So I'll just, you can come up here. By that time, you're knackered. No, well, we could just store them at your place, couldn't we?
Well, yeah, we can organise something for sure.
Yeah, well, let's do that. Anyway, you've been listening to Ammar and
Jalf
live on our weekly radio show. We'll be here next week with all your news, views.
The first results in Scotland's local council elections have been announced.